Hello and welcome to Katrina's Creations. This is a Wednesday tea and chat and Q&A. So I've got my tea and I'm going to try to pick this up without spilling it because I filled it all the way up to the top. There it is. And that's in my mug. And I'm drinking, I like black teas. I don't like green tea at all. It's English breakfast tea, and it's got lemon in it. I got this a box for like a discount thing. I think I paid 50 cents for the box. Yeah, I like tea, and if it's cheap, it's even better. I like it even more. So today is going to be a question and answer session. So let me get started first with some of the easier questions, and then I will move to some of the longer, more involved questions. Yeah, the first one would be from Cheryl Hemming. And she asked me, I had mentioned, I think it was a week or two ago, that my husband and I go shopping for Christmas right after Christmas. What's that all about? So I have found, because if you haven't been on the channel very long, I have 11 grandchildren. And we only have 2 children, and they're both married. But we have 11 grandchildren, and then we also, by the time we end up buying for nieces, actually great nieces and great nephews, it could be pricey. We don't buy individual gifts for like extended family. I might get one gift that's for the whole family to share. So I might pick out a DVD or something like that, or a game that all of the kids can enjoy in that family. I don't buy individual for them. But for my grandchildren, we spend roughly about $30 per child. And so they're not real big, expensive gifts. What we do, we have found that between Christmas and New Year's, a lot of the stores are trying to get rid of their stock because it's the end of the tax year here in the U.S. And so they are trying to get rid of their Christmas stock, and that's a great time to go out and buy. And a lot of times my husband and I shop at Ollie's discount store. I don't know if that's nationwide or if it's just a thing like in our area, East Coast type of thing. But a lot of times they will give us coupons for 15% off on top of the discounts that are already going on after Christmas. So a couple days after Christmas, I go in with a list of everybody I need to buy for. Mostly just the kids. Like the other ones, the adults I might pick up like during the year, but the kids are the ones we try to knock out right away. And so I make a Christmas list with everybody's name and the age they will be for the following Christmas. And then we go around and we shop and we get the discount. And if we have a coupon, we get an additional discount. And so it works out. We spend probably a third of what we would spend if we waited until Christmas. Plus it's less chaotic. And that way it's all done and we're not rushing around like chickens with their heads cut off at the end of, getting ready for Christmas, then trying to do all the Christmas shopping and wrapping and all that stuff. So that's why we do it. And we've done it that way for several years now, and it seems to work out. And for Dave and I for Christmas, we're at the point where we really don't need anything. And so what we do, we don't get anything for each other on Christmas Day. We just watch everybody else open. It's kind of fun to just watch all the little people open their stuff. But between Christmas and New Year's, we tend to take one day and we go away for the day and we set a budget for each other, and then we pick out what we would like that we could actually use. So last year we went up to Lancaster and we hit some stores for Dave and we hit a couple of yarn shops for me. So I'm not sure if that's what we'll do again this year. But we found that works good for us, and then we go have dinner someplace. So that would be the answer to my Christmas question. Christy Gabani asked, with the cabled sweater that I am knitting, do cables block out? But when I say block out, when I finish the sweater, you wash it and you kind of stretch it back into shape. Because when you knit or crochet, things kind of get scrunched up and misshapen, and your tension tends to twist things a little bit. So you basically try to reset the memory of the yarn back to what it was. So she was asking, with blocking cables, do they stretch out or do they pull in? Cables do tend to pull in more so than regular straight like garter stitch or stockinette stitch because they twist. A cable has like an interlocking twist to it, which pulls the yarn in. So when you block it, you don't want to completely stretch that out because you would flatten the dimension of the cable. So instead, you do try to block it just enough to make it equal, like the back. In my case, the back of my sweater is not cabled, so I'm going to make sure the front matches the back size-wise, but I don't want to like over block it. Sometimes when you make a shawl or something, you really stretch it and you do what's called aggressively blocking it to really open up lace and things. You don't want to do that with the cable because the whole part of the cable is to show the texture and the dimension, so you don't want to pull that out. Otherwise, it kind of looks kind of funny if you stretch it too much. So, that would be my answer for that, is you do block it, but you're not going to block it aggressively. So then I have a question from Jane of Family Clan, and she asked, have I always had long hair, and how are my daughter and son-in-law doing after their house fire? So I'll answer the first one first. As far as have I always had long hair? No. Off and on, throughout my life, I let it get long, and then I get frustrated with it being long, and I cut it short, and then I regret that I cut it short, and then I let it grow long again. Call me fickle. But when I was a kid, my mother cut my hair short in the little pixie haircut in the 60s. It was very popular with the little curly Q things on your cheeks. And my hair was like that probably until I was 6 or 7 years old when I started growing it out. By the time I was around 10, I cut it. And then when I was a senior in high school, my senior picture in high school, I have short hair. And I tended, when I say short, it was probably about chin length, which doesn't look bad on me, but it's a lot of work to keep my hair short. Because I have curly hair, right now it turns into a frizzy mess as it gets long. But when it's short, it turns curly, but unfortunately, it never curls the way I want it to curl. So I end up having to use a curling iron, and it has to be washed more frequently, and it's just a lot of work. So then I get it short, and I like the way it looks, except I don't like the work that's involved. So I end up letting it grow again. So the last time I had my hair cut was about 5-6 years ago. When I turned 50, I decided to stop dyeing my hair. I went completely gray at 30, and I dyed my hair from the time I was 30 until the time I was 50, and I finally got tired of it. And it was funny because every time my hair, my natural color was like mousy brown. So every time it would start growing out and the roots would start showing, it made me look like a skunk. So, because this like whitish gray streak would be right down the back of my head. So I finally said I'm not going to do this anymore, so I did cut my hair short, and every time it would start to grow out a little bit more of the dye, I would cut it again so that it didn't look, I didn't want to have like funny layers as it was growing out, so I just kept cutting it until I got all of the color out, and then I've left it from there. But my hair is extremely, you would never guess it. It looks like it's thick, it's just frizzy. It's actually baby fine, barrettes fall out of it, and it's very dry and kind of like fluffy. If I gathered the whole thing together, it's only about this big around. So it's really not that thick. And it falls out like crazy because I am hypothyroid. So even though my blood levels are okay with my thyroid, I still have a lot of the symptoms, one of which is loss of hair and dry hands. So, yeah. And I try putting conditioner on it, and I can use a little bit of conditioner, but because my hair is baby fine, the conditioner makes my hair look greasy really fast. So that would be my answer for my long hair. I go back and forth. So as for my daughter and son-in-law after the fire, if you are new to the channel, back on July 2nd, my daughter's stove caught fire in their house. The stove was not on. It had not been used at all that day. She did remember hearing it making some odd clicking noises, and it was shortly after the fire they found out that that particular brand of stove, the cooktop version, she had a range, but the cooktop version was starting itself and had caused some fires. So they, of course, the stove was gone by then because that was the source of the fire. So it kind of burned up, so they couldn't prove anything. Thankfully, they had really good insurance, and the house is being completely rebuilt because even though the damage was limited to the living room, the dining room, and the kitchen, and back into the family room, they had like a great room, and it kind of flashed over behind the stove and up over the ceiling. And but because the smoke damage went throughout the house, and the air conditioning was on, all of the smoke went. And it's not, when you have a house fire, it doesn't smell like burning something in your fireplace. It smells like smoke. It smells like burning plastics and all the chemicals that make up like your kitchen countertops and all of that stuff, your flooring, everything. It's all those kind of smells, and it permeates everything. We brought home to our house 2 chairs that my dad made. There are 2 children's chairs he made for the first 2 great-grandchildren. We had to keep them in the garage because the smell was so strong until we just kept cleaning them and cleaning them and cleaning them, and we finally got the odor out. But they lost most of their possessions because of smoke damage, and the water from the fire then, of course, got down into the furnace and down into all of the electrical stuff. And then it turned into mold. So it was just a big mess, and they pretty much gutted the house down to the studs. So they're basically getting a new house, and they are doing fine right now. They are in a rental that's just a couple blocks away from the house that they lived in. And their house is expected to be finished by the end of November. So they will be back in their house by Christmas. Thank goodness. And nobody was hurt in the fire. My son-in-law was at work at the time. My daughter had just left the house to go get her glasses prescription picked up. My oldest granddaughter was working for the summer at her summer job, so the 6 boys were home by themselves, but the 2 oldest are teenagers. And they smelled something burning, and they went and checked the kitchen. The oldest one went into the kitchen and saw what was happening and yelled for everybody to get out of the house. And the other teenager took some of the littler ones out, and some of the other ones used an excuse to jump out the window, which was on the first floor, so it wasn't a problem. And then they met at the end of the driveway to make sure everybody was out. They did lose 2 pets in the fire due to the smoke. But as far as, the kids and everybody else, the most important thing, that everybody was safe. So thank you guys for those of you who have asked about them. So that's the latest update, that they are doing very well and are excited about getting back into their house. My daughter's actually having fun at this point because she's an interior designer. That's what she does. That's what she went to college for. And so she's getting a chance to do all the things to the house that they always wanted to do and had planned on doing down the road. So they're at the fun part now. So the next question is from Chris Bragg. And it is, how does Ravelry and companies like that sell patterns, how do they make money? Or how do you make money on Ravelry? Okay, there's several different companies that are out there that you can sell patterns on. One is Ravelry. One is Love Crafts, which is the one that I'm selling my patterns through. You can also sell your patterns through Etsy. Now, those companies make money. Let me do Ravelry and Love Crafts first, because they're the most similar. With either of those companies, it doesn't cost anything to list your pattern for sale. There's no listing fee. However, when you sell a pattern, there's additionally no charge, except when you reach like a $30, I think Ravelry, you have to sell $30 in a month, and then you get charged a percentage. And Love Crafts, you can sell $40 in patterns before they actually charge you. So if you don't sell $40 for the month, you don't owe them anything. So, I mean, and it's very reasonable. I mean, the percentage they charge, it's like maybe 3%. I mean, it's very, very reasonable. Both companies are very reasonable as far as that. They do make their money in addition to that with advertising. If you designed a pattern and you wanted to try to promote it by doing an advertisement or putting a a picture of that pattern in a strategic spot that's going to catch people's attention, there is a fee to do that. And so they make some of their money that way as well. They also sell advertising space to other companies like yarn companies and things like that. And so they make some money that way. If you are selling things on those sites, like I said, the only time you actually pay anything is if you reach over a certain level per month. There is a fee, though, like from PayPal or whoever you set up to deal with your credit card transactions. I use PayPal, so if you buy a PDF download of one of my patterns, say the pattern costs $4. Some of my patterns are $4 or $5. So say you pay $4, I actually would get out of it about $3.58 because that 42 cents is what the credit card company charges to process the credit card. And there's no getting around that. It's going to happen no matter where you go because it costs them money to process the card. So that is how you make money on Ravelry and on Love Crafts. Now, Etsy is a little bit different in that Etsy is similar to eBay. You can sell crafts on there, whereas Ravelry, you're basically selling your patterns. eBay, you can sell homemade items that you have made. There is a 20-cent listing fee. So no matter whether the item sells or not, you have to pay a listing fee. And that listing will only show for a certain amount of time. It's like 3 months, and then they charge you another 20 cents. If you're selling patterns on there, or if you're selling, say you're selling a project bag and you have 4 bags that are the same, you just put one listing up, but as soon as somebody buys it, and the next listing will pop up, you know, like say you have 4 and then somebody's bought 1, so you've got 3 left, so the next one pops up onto the listing, you get charged 20 cents every time that new listing pops up. And then there is a fee once it sells. So, yeah, it's not as good of a deal. In fact, right now my patterns are over on Etsy only because I didn't know about Love Crafts at the time. So once those patterns run out over on Etsy, I won't relist them and I'll just send them over to Love Crafts because it costs me 20 cents additional on top of the other fees every time, you know, somebody buys it. And that was another reason why I couldn't have my free patterns available for the longest time because it wasn't free for me to list them. So I can do that now through Love Crafts, and Ravelry does that too. You could list free patterns there and it doesn't cost anything. So that's my answer for Ravelry. Now the longest question I saved for the last. Well, no, I take it back. I have one more question. And this was Sara Oliver. I'm going to take my drink of my tea real quick. Now, Sara Oliver, who is the last that knits, who she and I are doing the holiday along together, she asked me, how do I find time to do as much as I get done? Sometimes I don't really feel like I get all that much done. I work 2 to 3 days a week outside of the house. I work at a library. And then my husband and I volunteer at a mission organization where we process newsletters for missionaries. There's like over 40 missionaries that this missionary organization represents and oversees. So when they have a newsletter come in, my husband prints it out and does all that stuff, and then I go over and I help them either stuff the envelopes or tab the newsletter shut, and we get them, you know, addressed and over to the post office. So we do that, and we also volunteer at my grandchildren's homeschool co-op. We're helping with a guitar teaching class. But most evenings, we are home. So, you know, most evenings and Saturdays, so I spend a lot of my crafting time is done, you know, on Saturdays and on the evenings. And I usually have knitting or crochet with me at work, because there's sometimes downtime during lunch, or, you know, if I'm waiting for somebody, you know, if I'm in a meeting, I tend to fidget, so I have something to keep my hands busy so I can concentrate on what they're saying a little bit better. And, yeah, in between patrons, sometimes there'll be some downtime, so I will take my knitting or crochet there. So that's how I get stuff done. But like I said, a lot of times I look around and feel like I haven't gotten anything done or not much done all week long. And other weeks, it's like I feel like I've gotten lots. So it kind of depends on my schedule. So now we're on to the last question. And this one's the longest answer. That's why I saved it for the end. This was from Spring Noelker, and she asked me, could I give some details about YouTube as far as like starting a channel and how everything works, and some tips for starting channels. I've had a YouTube channel for 3 years now, and I have watched a lot of YouTubers that give advice on how to be successful at it. And while my channel is considered fairly small, it's not small, but it's not a big channel either. But I enjoy it. Anyway, that's what prompted me to start it, because I really didn't know that many people who knitted or crocheted. And I just thought it would be fun to be able to connect with other people who did. So with YouTube, there's no charge to start a channel. There's no fees or anything. As far as making money on YouTube, you don't make money until you have 1,000 subscribers and I think it's 4,000 viewing hours, which kind of goes hand in hand. If you have 1,000 viewers, chances are you're going to have 4,000 viewing hours. When you reach that level, then you get advertising. You do get some say over which advertisements are allowed on your channel, as far as whether you want them to be family friendly or whatever. So you do have some say on that. You make a little bit, and I do mean a very little bit of money on this. YouTube, if you're going into it to make money, that's probably not going to happen. I didn't know what quite to expect as far as money-wise, but I'll give you an idea of what I've made last year on YouTube, just on YouTube. I put out at least 2 videos a week. So that would be 104 videos per year. Last year, I made a little over $200. That's about 50 cents per video is about all you make. You have to, when you start a YouTube channel, just be aware that you're going to spend a lot of time. I work outside the house 19 hours a week on YouTube, between filming, editing, doing the uploads, answering the comments, going over on Facebook and, answering questions there, and just kind of the business paperwork that goes along with it. I probably spend 10 to 12 hours, sometimes more, per week on YouTube, with the business end of it. So it's not just about being in front of the camera. It's, all the stuff that goes on behind that. Now, ways I do make some money on YouTube is not from YouTube itself. If you've watched my Saturday videos, I do at the end of it called Come and Get It, and I tell you all the sales that are going on for the week, which I'm a bargain hunter. I like sales, so half the time I'm going over and checking these sales out myself. But I'm an affiliate with those companies, so if you buy something through that link that's down in the description box, I get a small commission out of it. And the commission depends on the company. Sometimes they're small, sometimes they're larger. So that's where I make the bulk of my money. And I mean, it's still not a huge amount. I mean, we're still talking under $1,000 a year, all total. And that's including YouTube. So that's including YouTube and my affiliates and my pattern sales. I maybe make $1,000. So, yeah, if you're going into it for an income, it doesn't work that way. And something else I learned, I just assumed, I don't know why, but when I would see people that had like thousands and thousands of subscribers, I assumed that they were probably making thousands and thousands of dollars. Not necessarily, because even though you may have that many subscribers, does not mean that many subscribers watch every week. Like I have a little over 2,000 subscribers. I don't get 2,000 views a week. So I on average get about 200 views per video. So only about 1/10 are consistently watching. So that's something to think of when you're watching these people that have, like hundreds of thousands of subscribers. It doesn't necessarily mean that all of those people are watching. So the other questions that I would say, or answers I would say with YouTube, as far as tips, and these are not tips that I came up with, these are tips I heard from other people's videos, was if you're going to have a YouTube channel, set a day of the week that you're going to put your video up and stay with that consistently. Make sure you post often and you post at the same time. That way, if you do build up a faithful audience, and some of you guys are some of that faithful audience, you always know that there's going to be a video on Saturday and on Wednesday. So you're looking for it because you know to expect it on those days. If I randomly started putting videos up, like once every other month, once here, once there, you're not going to get a big following. People want to be able to count on it. So, I try my best to, usually if there's not a video up, there's something going on that's happened or whatever, because I don't know if I've ever canceled a video. I might have once. I think I did one time. I was sick. So normally if there's not a video that's shown up, there's something going on, that there's prayer needed for something going on, because normally I do this. But anyway, mainly because I enjoy it. But that would be one of my main tips, is be consistent and answer comments. There are so many YouTubers over time. They get lots of viewers, and I would read through the comments, and people would say, they never make a comment. They never reply to me. They never do, and I understand that once you get a whole lot of, once you get thousands of people, it's hard to keep up and reply to everybody. But as long as you're able to, try to respond to these people. If you all have taken the time to write to me, then I want to take the time to respond, or at least give you a little heart to let you know that I've seen that. I've acknowledged that I've read what you've put up there. Because your comments are important, and I enjoy chatting with you guys. And that builds a relationship, between you and the viewer. And I've gotten some really good friendships out of this whole thing, which has been terrific. And, part of that is by replying back and forth to each other. And I also think the Facebook helps as well, because, not everybody's over on Facebook, but I think the Facebook helps because a lot of times you can be a more personable, or more personal over on Facebook, because not everybody's going to see it, and you can private message the person over there. YouTube used to have private messaging. They don't anymore. And lastly, I would advise to set up a public email. I have a private email that's just, private, but I have one that I use for Katrina's Creations, because not everybody does Facebook. And, I'm seeing that with the holiday along. Some of you are posting over on the email, or some of you, if you want to say something to me privately that you don't want to share, up in the comments on YouTube, that's another way to get hold of me. And so that works too. It's nice to be able to chat with you guys over there as well. So those would be my tips as far as YouTube and what to do with it. And if you're curious about what the the company where I get my affiliate links from, it's called Share a Sale. It doesn't cost anything to sign up, and there's like all different companies that participate, and you just sign up, and once you get accepted, then they give you the links that you can use on your YouTube video. The other thing I would say, I said lastly, there's one more thing, and that is be careful with your editing. Actually, there's two things to share. Be careful with your editing, as far as I do a lot of editing on my videos. For instance, just before I started saying this, my telephone rang. And if you had to sit there and listen to my telephone ring, that would drive you absolutely crazy. Sometimes Dave will forget I'm videoing, and he will walk through, like the other week when he photobombed my video because he was behind me and I didn't know it. And I didn't really pay much attention to it until I saw the video, and, it's kind of funny. But anyway, yeah, just make sure you edit your videos so that you get all the annoying distractions out of it. If you saw my videos before they were cut and spliced together because of all the mistakes I've made, it would be entertaining, but it would be embarrassing too, because some things I get all tongue-tied. And someone asked me one time, would I ever do a live video? I doubt it, because I would probably make all kinds of mistakes. I have a foot-shaped mouth, and I stick my foot in my mouth on a regular basis. Not intentionally, but it happens. And yeah. And I find I don't tend to watch the live videos because it's like delayed. People are responding and the messages are popping up at odd time. I don't know. It's too confusing and chaotic. So I don't like to watch live videos. So I probably wouldn't do one for myself for that same reason. But yeah, if you are going to do a YouTube channel, there's lots of cheap or free editing. You could go to a company called Filmora, and they have some free editing software that's over there. I use one that it's Windows Movie Maker, but it's not the new version with Windows 10. I tried it and didn't like that one. This one's an old one. I think it's from 2012. It's very user-friendly, which is good because I'm not techie at all. You would think I would be with having a YouTube channel, but I really am not all that techie. Yeah, I like something simple. So I would say editing, and also know the new rules that YouTube is sending out. The FTC is sending out some new rules for YouTube involving protecting children. But it is going to change some things on some channels. It is going to affect my channel to a small, not a big extent, but a small extent, to the extent that starting by the first of the year, if there are pictures that are sent to me, like for show and tell, that have children in them, I can't post them. If there are stuffed animals that people make, like your amigurumi, things like that, I can't post them. They'll still be over they'll be over on Facebook. If you want to check them out, you can see them over on Facebook. But anything for the show and tell or stuffed animal that is stuffed animal related, I can't put, or stuffy dolls or anything like that. Because if it's anything that would be appealing to a child that would maybe draw them to watch your channel, there's some real strict rules involved with that. So rather than take any chances of getting any kind of fines, I'm just going to not put anything with any children. That, like even with my grandchildren, in fact, I know I won't show them. I don't tend to show my grandchildren on there anyway, just because most of us that watch are grandparents or parents, but there's creepy people out there. And so for the most part, I don't put my grandchildren on anyway for that, just for their own safety. But, YouTube is really cracking down on that because the FTC cracked down on them, if I understand it rightly. So I'm playing it safe. We'll just say it that way. I am not a risk taker. Anyway, that would be it for the question and answer this week. It ran a little longer than what I thought it would maybe run. So I hope that answered some of the questions that you guys had. And if you ever have other ones, just stick them down in the comments down below and let me know. And I will try to answer them on a Saturday video. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you on Saturday.